Hey everybody, it's so good to be with you again tonight. Tonight is a little bit different again, that we're meeting online in this fashion, but I'm glad that you've decided to tune in. Tonight we're doing part 2 of our series called Love Hate. Let me start off by asking you this question. Have you ever felt thankful that one of your friends gave you a heads up, even if it was awkward for them? Like it was uncomfortable at the time, but ultimately you knew that they said it because they were looking out for you. Maybe it was something like, dude, you have food in your teeth, or bro, your fly is down, or man, you have ketchup on your forehead. I'm not sure how it got there. I'm just looking out for you, right? Or maybe even the person you're talking about is right behind you, like right behind you. So here's the thing, we've all had moments like that, right? I mean, no one likes hearing that they have food on their shirt or that there's toilet paper stuck to their shoe. But when someone cares enough about us to look out for us and, save us from future embarrassment, we're grateful, right? But let's think about this from the other side for a second. Have you ever felt like you should really say something to someone else, but you weren't sure how to go about saying it? I mean, think about it. Telling your friend they have food on their teeth is one thing, but we all know that there's bigger stuff than that. Stuff like talking to your friend about a relationship that you don't think is good for them, or confronting someone about some decisions they've been making lately that, they're not so great, or speaking up about something that you know is going to get them in trouble. Well, those feel completely different. I mean, speaking up in situations like that is beyond difficult. Like if your brother or sister started hanging out with people who convinced them that to do things that they know aren't right. I mean, what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to do in those moments? Or if your best friend is making decisions that you know their parents would be very upset with, I mean, is it your place to say something about it? You know what I typically do? I usually avoid those types of conversations altogether. I mean, my guess is you do too, but why? I mean, maybe we don't want to ruin a friendship, or maybe we don't want to make someone mad. Maybe what we're doing, or maybe something that we've done in the past, is some of the same things, and so we don't feel like we really have the right to say anything. Or maybe we don't think the other person will listen, and maybe we don't even know what to say or how to say it. So for some of you, the situation is the exact opposite though. I mean, you have no problem telling people exactly how you see it. You're not shy about speaking up at all, and the problem with that though is that you may not always be speaking up in a way that causes people to want to listen to you. And so if you've ever wrestled with any of that kind of stuff, the good news is this: you're not alone. We've all been there. We all know what it feels like to know that we need to say something, but yet find ourselves unsure of what to say and how to say it. So what if we could learn a way to approach those difficult conversations? Like, what if there was a way that we could be helpful and kind when we chose to speak up? Or what if there was a way to have the difficult conversation that ended up bringing about something good? Here's the thing. I don't think anybody wants to be known as a hater. Nobody wants to be seen as the "I'm so amazing" friend who talks about everything everyone else does wrong. Instead, I think that you and we want our reputation to stand out for the right reasons, like how we love and how we treat other people. So when it comes to being a friend who looks out for the others, how do we make sure that we handle these types of things in the right way? Well, the last time we met, we talked about how we should be all about love, right? Like, who wouldn't want to have this reputation for loving others? I mean, no matter how tough we want to appear or how trendy hating on others is, we all know that it's better to be known for loving others. So if love is the goal, how are we supposed to handle it when someone is literally doing something bad, or dangerous, or just plain dumb, right? Maybe we should just avoid them. I mean, this seems to be the way that we're supposed to behave at times, and we're all just supposed to be okay with, someone else's choices because, it's their life. So who are we to judge? But I think deep down, we all know that this isn't the case, especially when it comes to the people who are close to us. So what do? Well, Paul talks about this very thing in a letter that he wrote to a church in a region called Galatia, where modern-day Turkey is now. Paul gave insight on this very topic. He says this, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path, and to be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself." Paul is saying that if the Galatians have any friends who share the same values but yet slip up and do things that are harmful, their responsibility then is to help that person get back on the right path. In other words, he's saying you and I should actually go further than just saying something in a conversation. We should help that person back to the best place that they can be, on track with what God says is best. Now, there's a lot that Paul isn't saying here too. He isn't saying that you are personally responsible for making sure that your friends make wise choices. And he isn't saying you should put yourself in a position that sets you up for failure when you're trying to help your friends. Wisdom in these conversations and in these situations is a must. The point is this. According to Paul, it's with humility and gentleness that you and I can help others who are struggling and making poor decisions in order to get them back on the right path. Paul continues, "Share each other's burdens, and in this way, obey the law of Christ." So how do we help them get back on track? What Paul says is by carrying each other's burdens. We think about it this way. In the world of fitness training, there's a person known as a spotter. And a spotter is there to help you when the weight gets too heavy and the person doing the lifting is no longer able to lift the weight on their own. And when that happens, the spotter begins to carry some of the weight too. They carry the burden of the barbell along with the person who's doing the lifting. See, I think that's a good image of what we're supposed to do to help people get back on the right path. Paul cared deeply about the people of Galatia, which is why he wrote what he did. He knew that the most loving thing to do isn't always the easiest thing to do, but we owe it to each other to speak up. Because the truth is, we need each other. Not just to point out where others may have gotten it off track, but to come alongside one another to help us ourselves and help each other carry the burden of getting back into the right place. So in other words, Jesus followers must do more than just speak up and point out what's wrong. We have to make ourselves available to be spotters in the lives of others. In other words, we've got to be there to help make right where things have gone wrong. And we don't just point fingers, we share burdens. Again, some of us are like, man, I'm not afraid to speak up. I don't care what people think of me. And for those of you who kind of, feel that way, Paul snuck in 2 words that I think is very helpful for us to keep in mind when it comes to these types of conversations. He said that we should be gentle and humble. In other words, what we say is just important as how we say it. The loving act is not to sound judgmental, not to sound arrogant or self-righteous. Instead, it's being kind and helpful and encouraging. Hard conversations aren't easy, but avoiding a hard conversation really isn't loving either. And enjoying the hard conversation, by making someone look bad and feel terrible over what they've done, well, that isn't loving either. In fact, the conversation isn't really the point. The point is learning to ask this question. Am I showing love with how I'm treating this person? So what is this supposed to look like? How do we share each other's burdens? Some of you might be thinking of a friend who you need to have a conversation with. They might even be sitting in the same room as you right now, or they might be at the top of your Snapchat. What do you do? How do you help them? Well, if you're gonna choose to be known for your love for others, then when it comes to what you say and how you help others, you need to remember this. Let love be your filter. Let love be your filter. You already know how filters work, right? You choose a filter on Snapchat, on Instagram, and no matter where you look, it changes what you see. And the same thing is true for choosing love as a filter. No matter where you look, no matter who is in your camera, you see them differently. So what exactly should a filter of love be applied to? Well, let me give you a couple of ideas. The first one is this: let love be the filter for your involvement. When you aren't sure if you should get involved in a friend situation, ask yourself this: what's the most loving thing I can do? You use that question as a filter for your next step. I mean, this kind of provides that gut check for your motives and reminds you that they should be rooted in love. Now, here's the thing. This can kind of be tricky. So don't hesitate to ask an adult, a parent, your small group leader, if this is the wise thing to do. And once you're sure that the most loving thing to do is to get involved, then here's the next step. Number 2, let love be the filter for your words. You ask yourself, how would I want someone to speak to me? And what would I want them to say if I were in their shoes? You see, when you filter your words through love, you'll stop and make sure that you aren't just throwing shade around. I mean, this isn't about making you look right and them look wrong. Instead, you'll be letting them know that you're there to carry their burdens with them. And when you speak words of hope, you speak and encourage instead of casting judgment. If you filter your words through love, there'll be words that can help get someone's life back on track. And once you have a word filter in place, it's time to take the next step, which is this: let love be the filter for your actions and reactions. If you have friends who are having a hard time keeping their lives headed in the right direction, chances are they won't just need your words, they'll need your help. I mean, you have to choose to filter your actions through love, just like you do your words. And so you ask yourself, how would I want someone to live out their love if I were in this situation? Like, for instance, would I want them to keep their phone close in case you got into a tempting situation? Would you want them to pick you up or call you for a ride if you were in an unhealthy situation? Would you want them to tell an adult because the help you need goes beyond them? Maybe you would want them to say the hard things and follow those words up with accountability or continuous conversation to help you stay on track. You see, no matter what the situation is, if you filter your actions through love, you'll wind up being known for the way you love others, and you'll live out Paul's command to help share the burdens of other people. See, I think when we let love be our filter, we wind up sharing the burdens of those that we love. And so tonight, I want you to imagine how our schools, how our friends, how our families would all be different if there were more people who filtered their involvement, their words, and their actions through love. I think that you and I would start to say the hard things to one another, but not out of judgment or hate. It'd be out of love. And I think we would help keep each other from regrets, from mistakes, from unnecessary heartbreaks or negative consequences. I mean, who knows? A filter of love might just change the direction of someone else's life for the better, forever. And so tonight, I want us to be known as people who let love be their filter so that we can help those we love stay headed in the best direction for their lives. Hey, before we go, I want to just offer a simple prayer for you. And then as we get ready to go, don't forget that we have Zoom small groups right after this. So check out your text alert. In just a few minutes, you'll be getting a text alert for the Zoom ID number and password, and we'll see you there. Let me offer a prayer for you. God, thank you so much for this night. Thank you for this challenge that we have to let our filter be love, God. And so I just ask that you would help us in every situation we're in, that you would guide us and lead us and give us that moment to pause and to ask the questions that we need to ask. Is this going to help carry someone's burden? Is this going to be helpful? Is it going to be loving? Is it the loving thing to do? Is it the loving thing to say? And so, God, I just ask that you would help us with our families, with our folks, that our parents, with people that we interact with at school and online. God, I just ask for your help and guidance, and we pray this all in your precious name. Amen. We'll see you in a bit.